He maintains faith in the benevolence of existence, even though he can't necessarily perceive it at that moment.
Yeah. So I'll get to that, because what I did was, in the moment, I'm struggling with faith in myself, for sure. Struggling with faith in my ability to hear God's voice and know what I'm supposed to be doing. And God brings in this reminder of a story that makes me feel a little bit better a foundation.
Right, and this came to your wife's mind, this story.
Yes.
And that's why you investigated it.
Yes, that's her she was not Job's wife. She did not say, "Curse God." She said,
"Oh, that's interesting." So one of the things that does happen to people in circumstances like this, and it's worth noting psychologically, is that if you are wrestling with a very complex problem, you can watch memories and images flit through your mind. And you can think of it, what your imagination is trying to do is to sketch out the nature of the new landscape. And it might offer a hint in the form of a reference to something read or something encountered that you can then pursue, right? So it'd be like your wife's imagination had gripped onto the notion that there was some possibility that there was a nugget of information embedded in that particular story that would be useful for this situation. Right. We'd call that an intuition, but it's a revelation too. That's another way of thinking about it. Okay, so you took that seriously and you read the story. Right.
So in the midst of it, this is why you're who you are. I wouldn't have put it this way, but we were also unknowingly wrestling whether it's an intuition or a revelation, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because our conclusion from the story that we were reading was, okay, right now we are at that point of hunger and desperation. The next step is the miracle. Jesus brought them to that place so that they were hungry and desperate, so that the only solution to their problem was a miracle, the thing that only he could do.
Now, you mentioned the Exodus story. One of the, what would you say? God, if I remember correctly, God justifies his actions in hardening the heart of the Pharaoh. Because that increases the majesty of his eventual victory.
So that I will get glory.
Yes, exactly.
Three times in one chapter.
Yeah, right. So that's a very complicated thing to unpack. And I don't remember if we went into that in the Exodus seminar in the Daily Wire series, but I suspect so. And so what you're doing is you're laying out the narrative of those events to point out what would you say? It's the magnification of what happens that's beneficial by the precursor of the tragic. And it is definitely the case that there's this dynamic in our life that what's good would not be as good as it is unless it could be contrasted with suffering and misery, right? You need that expanse of experience for things to have their majesty. That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
So in the moment, a bad thing has happened, but it's the precursor to something great. So what is it? We know that Jesus is about to do something extraordinary in the feeding of the 5,000. So what is God about to do with us? And we're thinking...
So that's at least a possibility then.
Yeah, maybe. We're thinking tonight, the numbers might so dramatically shift in a miraculous way that God will get glory and that our movie will actually surprise and counteract the math equation that has taken place. And so we're thinking, don't be surprised if tonight the numbers magically, supernaturally, miraculously turn around. The math equation that Hollywood is used to is upended. And what is about to happen to us is what happened to the people who were hungry and desperate 2,000 years ago. So that night, the numbers got worse. So now we're going, okay.
So much for that hypothesis.
Yes. So we're back to square one. And now I go to the former, when you had the two options of, is it a practical mistake? Is it an error that was made? Or is it a foundational problem? Okay, well, I'm going to go now to my brain is now back to how I normally am. And I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to get online. I'm going to pull up Microsoft Word, and I'm going to do a 15-page memo analyzing all the errors and strategies that were mistaken to lead me to this point. So I'm writing it out. This is what I did wrong. To my credit, I'm taking blame. I'm not putting blame on anyone else. I was wrong. I missed it. I'm on page 14 of my 15-page memo analyzing everything that went wrong. Ping, something pops up on my computer. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Message pops up on Facebook Messenger from someone I've never met. We're friends on Facebook. We've talked maybe once a year. Doesn't say hi, doesn't say hello. Just ping. Remember, Your job is not to feed the 5,000. It's only to provide the loaves and fish. So I pause for a moment. I wonder if genuinely, was my computer recording what Amanda and I talked about today? How does this person know to speak to this thing we've been wrestling with all day?
Yeah, that's a weird coincidence.
So my response,
to say the least.
Yeah, so I didn't say, "Hey, Alex, nice to hear from you." I just go, "What are you doing up at 4 a.m?" Because I'm trying to analyze. He says, "Oh, I'm in Romania. I'm on the other side of the world right now. I just heard about your movie, and I wanted to say that." And I said, "Before I respond, can I ask you why you told me that?" He said, "Oh, that wasn't me. God told me to tell you that."
Okay, so tell me the message again.
Remember,
yeah,
your job is not to feed the 5,000. It's only to provide the loaves and fish.
Okay, so what did you make of that?
So I first had to, my life changed in that moment because my question about whether or not God was present was clearly answered. He's telling, I found out later that Alex said he was walking home from the grocery store and he looked up my movie, saw it was a failure. He had enjoyed it. He had seen it himself. He was disappointed. And he felt just as clearly as my wife had felt God putting her into the story of the feeding 5,000, he felt God putting it on his heart. Tell Dallas it's not his job to feed the 5,000. It's only to provide the loaves and fish. And he said, "No, I barely know Dallas. That's a very condescending thing to say to somebody who's clearly..."
Well, and a strange thing. It's like its meaning is opaque. And
yes.
It's a very particular reference, right?
Right. And
contextless.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So he wrestles with that and doesn't want to do that and thinks ultimately, well, God won't let me off the mat. He keeps pressing this into me. So, okay, I'm going to share this with Dallas. It's 4 a.m. back there anyway, so he won't see it for a while anyway. And of course, he gets this immediate response and informs me that God had been pressing it on his heart to tell me that. So 2 things happen. Number 1, it all hit me in that moment. Like I understood what he meant, and that's what you're asking. So in the story of the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus could have, assuming you believe the story and you believe all the stories of the miracles that he performed, he could have manifested loaves and fish from nothing. And he could have fed 5,000 people, and the loaves and fish could have just emerged in their laps. But he says, "I need food. Someone bring me some food. Bring me something." And a boy brings 5 loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus takes those 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he blesses them, and then multiplies them to the point where we can feed 5,000 people. And so why does he do that? Why does he involve us, or in the case of this story, the boy, in the process when he doesn't have to? So the principle of your job is to not be responsible to feed 5,000, to not think of the results. I'm a results guy. I'm a problem solver. The numbers didn't match. We didn't feed 5,000. It failed. And this gentleman is telling me, no, that's not your job to worry about. You didn't fail.
I see. So you're looking at the wrong marker of success in relationship to your endeavor. So as long as you did the right thing all the way along, which is something you have to contend with in relationship to your conscience, the outcome is not the measure.
Correct. So in that moment, when I'm literally analyzing what I did wrong, coming off of a day of wrestling with the story of the feeding the 5,000, this gentleman randomly out of the blue tells me, it's not that. It's not that you failed per se. It's not that you...
Eyes up, open eyes, let the truth be told. In the face of deception, don't let the heart grow cold. For the fight is just beginning. We're stronger than they know. United, undivided, our light will surely show.